Daisy. I see she said hello. Excited that you're here too.
Hi, everyone. We are here again on our Crypto Chicks channel. We are having very excited presentation today, how to rationalize investing in irrational crypto markets. And we have our guest speaker today, Jacqueline. Jacqueline, I'm going to introduce Jacqueline just a little bit later. And before that, I would like you to maybe just quick attention to the programs that we are offering right now. We are a Crypto Chicks organization. We are educating women across the globe in 56 countries right now. We are also running online programs, and our online programs include the Crypto Chicks Academy. This is our resource to go to. You can go check it out. We have a subscription in there. We put a little ticket price on this on this resource. To all the funds that we collect from this resource is going towards our community, educating women in a blockchain. For example, right now we're raising money for our Nigerian chapter. Nigerian women, they are very keen to learn about blockchain, about this technology, but at the moment they don't have, computers, even the power or the internet. And we're raising money right now to provide computer power, computers, then also access to the powers, to pay for the power and pay for the internet for those women, 500 women that we have in Nigeria. So we're going to be posting information about it very soon on our social media. We're going to be having also GoFundMe raising money campaign, and also all our resources, all our money from the one that we raise from our resources going to go towards also these programs. So check out Crypto Chicks Academy if you would like to subscribe or buy any of our courses. So our courses have flat fee of $25 right now. So check them out. We have very great content. And also we run in Crypto Chicks Hatchery, which is our incubator mentorship program, where we have right now 15 startups, and we recently have another five startups that joined us. We provide a mentorship for women that would like to start a business in blockchain technology. We also running workshops like this one to help women to fundraise, to build their business from the ground up. We also provide the funding. We constantly pitch into our funding partners and provide, right now it's just a little prize money, like around $5,000 for startup. But will be raising more and more to fund our startups. We also have the program milestones developed for our startups to go through and progress in their startup building. So this is our resources, and I'm going to right now to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to introduce our speaker for today. This is Jacqueline Kim Perez. She is an operations and marketing professional with extensive experience in managing and scaling high growth tech companies in the public and private sector. She has made a significant impact in technology ecosystem in Canada. As a thought leader, and she's also a speaker, as you see, educator, and a role model within the blockchain space with now close to 5 years experience. And if you follow blockchain space, the 5 years experience in that space, it's huge number. And she also have foundational knowledge on investing in traditional stock and crypto markets and implementation of blockchain technology. And she's right now with Covalent. And I'm welcoming you to her presentation, and I'm welcoming Jacqueline. Jacqueline, it's all yours.
All right, so I'm just going to share my screen. All right, perfect. Okay, perfect. So Yeah, my name is Jacqueline. You can call me Jackie. I'm very excited to be here and wanted to give a big thank you to Crypto Chicks for allowing me to talk to you guys about a topic that I'm very passionate about. As she mentioned, I work for a company called Covalent, where I am the head of operations and token marketing. But before we start diving into basically like the fundamentals and the basic fundamentals of crypto investing and what you should know, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about my journey and how I began, because that plays a big part into understanding why I'm still talking about this topic today after 5 years. So I was actually introduced to blockchain in 2015. And I was working for a company that was known as Victory Square Technologies, where they focused on several different sectors. It was cannabis, film, health, artificial intelligence, and blockchain was one of them. And we had a gentleman named Guy Halford Thompson, who is the former CEO of BTL that is based in Canada. And they were actually the first Canadian-based blockchain company to have gone public out of Canada, which was really impressive. And he was part of the whole movement on integrating the first Bitcoin machine in Vancouver. So I feel very fortunate to have been surrounded by individuals who were actually involved in the space and saw the potential and how it was going to innovate and change everything, and then taking the time to explain it to me. But of course, being introduced to blockchain, it can get a little bit intimidating. And I didn't understand what he started talking about, like nodes and like ledgers and Bitcoin and smart contracts. But it definitely sparked a big interest because I was always willing to learn. I wanted to learn about different innovations. So he took part in the BC Tech Summit, which is a big event that happens in Vancouver, where different companies, they basically pitch and share all the innovative products and projects that they are building. So yeah, he started talking about BTL and blockchain, and it just left me in on, like, had me ask a lot of questions. But when I started diving even deeper into it, especially into crypto trading, was in between like mid 2015 and 2016. And there was another project that we had called Fans Unite, where they were very focused on sports betting, and they wanted to implement blockchain technology because they saw a huge just issue in the sports betting industry in terms of transparency with unfair bets and a lot of issues happening. So they saw the opportunities. So along with a group of the boys who were learning at the same time, they actually introduced me to Ethereum. It wasn't even Bitcoin that was first talked to me about. It was Ethereum and smart contracts. And it was crazy because we would spend like countless amounts of hours just researching. And then they started getting me into trading and then introducing me on into how to even create a wallet and the importance of being able to protect and set up my wallets correctly. And I actually met Ganesh, Covalent's CEO, during that time when he was just launching the company. So yeah, it was a very, very fun time. And through a lot of the research and just reading countless white papers, I became very passionate just about the tech in general, on like the opportunities, the disruption and innovation that it would be causing all verticals. And I really believe it's going to disrupt all verticals. Doesn't matter if you're in healthcare, if you are in real estate, if you are in finance and education. Like, I feel you can implement this technology in so many ways to really redefine the ways that we transact with one another, and giving people the power to own their identities and also money. And that was the reason why Bitcoin was created in the first place. So yeah, I started becoming like a hardcore crypto trader where I didn't sleep because crypto just doesn't sleep. Sat on a lot of board of advisors, one of them being Startup Canada, and started speaking at a lot of panels and different conferences where I was talking about crypto investing and the technology. And then I started writing a lot of content for Hacker Noon. And that's where I saw a big gap in the industry. And it was educational components and tools that people could actually utilize in order to set themselves up in a position to better succeed, whether if it was dabbling into understanding the technology more, or just getting into crypto investing and understanding that it's about the technology and not about what media is putting out there. So yeah, let's dive into the do's and don'ts of investing in cryptocurrencies. And I'm going to use a lot of memes because I find that memes have just become part of the crypto culture. So yeah, the number one rule that I tell people before they even decide to invest in cryptocurrencies is investing only what you can afford to lose. And a lot of these fundamentals that I'm going to go over might seem a little bit silly to some of us who have a little bit more knowledge in this space. But I'm going to go over stats, review a lot of stories of a lot of repeated mistakes that I'm still seeing. And I wouldn't be talking about a lot of these things if I didn't see like a need to. And again, it's just the educational parts of it. So yeah, the first one is only investing what you can afford to lose. So for those of you who like haven't heard, there was the big ICO craze in 2017, and ICO stands for initial coin offering. So if you take that into like traditional stock market trading, you can kind of look at it as taking a company from private to public, and we call them IPOs, initial public offerings. So it's kind of like the same thing for tokens or taking a crypto project public. But yeah, there was a huge craze. A lot of people made a lot of money, but then there was a big crash where we started hearing a lot about people losing anywhere up to like 50 to 80% of their portfolios or even more. And it was a really sad period because I follow a lot of different communities, the subreddits. There's a main one called cryptocurrencies where they have quite a few million followers. And on the front page for a few weeks, it was really sad to see the U.S. National like hotline, suicide hotline post, and people were just talking about just stories and stories of how they pulled out mortgages, student loans. People would max out their credit cards and take out their life savings in order to invest, but they didn't really know what they were investing in. It was just they were trying to get in on top of like all the gains that people were talking about, like the 10x, like 1000% returns, without really understanding the risk to just getting into investing in general. There's a big risk. So yeah, you have seen different publications such as Newsweek, Yahoo, Bloomberg that talked about this period. And I find in some communities up to date, they're still reminding people just don't put yourself in that position. So that's why I go over this as the number one. And we're going to dive in deeper into additional steps that I recommend people to take in order to not have to go through that, because we shouldn't put ourselves in that position. So after knowing the initial investment that you want to put in before you even decide to invest into cryptocurrencies, I always tell people to set goals. And these are steps that I've actually taken and that I've mentored other people, set my family up, friends up, different communities up, even people who are integrating some of the things that I talk about into like their lectures. I tell people set goals. It's really important to define your goals because my goals as an investor is going to be very different from what you want to do. So I separate it into three different categories: short-term investing, long-term investing, and then there's your day-to-day trading. And there's different levels of risk within each one. So if you don't really know what category you fall under, there's like different tips that I give. But just understand that if you want to do a day-to-day crypto trading, it's very different again from traditional markets. Like crypto doesn't sleep. The exchanges don't close. It's 24/7. So you'll hear stories about people not sleeping and constantly refreshing their portfolios because they're like so attached to their phones because anything can happen. Whereas traditional stock trading, the market's open and then they close and you don't have to stress about it after that. Yeah, crypto doesn't sleep. So it's important to have the right tools and especially the discipline and knowing that you are jumping into a position where it's even more high risk. So tips that I recommend is if you are someone that are looking into kind of learning more about the technologies or reading patterns, I would definitely find a platform or a course where they allow you to play with fake currencies, where they're still showcasing kind of the real live trades that are happening, and you can base your decisions off of the news releases that a company is putting out there and kind of recognizing patterns, and they call it like the candlesticks. And with that, you're going to be able to recognize kind of like what's being manipulated, when bots are being involved, and kind of get a better sense of timing. So that's a big one. Another one that I tell people is, especially for like short-term trading or the day-to-day, is emotion. Emotion emotional trading is basically the majority of the people that I've taught, like their downfall. And I tell people just treat it as a business transaction, or just take it as a business, take the emotion out of it. Because if you get sucked into what everybody is saying and becoming emotional on it and making decisions based off of that, and you forget the goals that you set, that puts you in a position again where it's even more risk. So you want to, again, set yourself in a position where you're thinking independently and you're not relying on other people to basically dictate those decisions that you originally set for yourself. Another tip that I like to talk about is role models. Role models in the crypto space. It's very important to find people that have reputable, basically videos that are catered towards being able to educate and set you up with success, and not just people shilling and sharing like how much money they've made. And there's a lot of that. Like I'm seeing a lot more of that pop up in TikTok, on Instagram, of people that have made like a few hundred, and then they automatically like switch their status or tell people that they are a consultant or a crypto trading expert. So if they don't really have like a track record and a good track record of, especially with due diligence done, those are just things to be wary of, because there's a lot of that popping up. And yeah, just being aware of anybody that calls themselves an expert when they don't really have experience in the space. Hence my meme. Okay, so after setting goals, I'm going to dive into another part that I feel is very important. And it's because a lot of people don't want to do this. It's the due diligence. And you'll find that as you crawl into different subreddits, there's going to be people telling you, like, do your due diligence, put in the time to actually do the research. And when people come back and ask me, you know, Jackie, what should I invest in? I just tell them not to be lazy, because again, my goals that I set for myself are going to be very different from what you decide for yourself. And I can point out different things that I look into when I do my due diligence. I look at a company's white paper, I look at their team, I look at the community, their partnerships, milestones, roadmap, the token economics, and the news releases, which are a lot of things. And this is why people don't want to take the time to do that research. But if you set yourself up in that position, you're going to actually pay more attention to the technology rather than what media is putting out there. And which is what I prefer in terms of being able to move towards adoption. Because right now we have a period where media is only talking about like Bitcoin and how many gains and people have made or how many losses, but there's no really rich conversations in terms of the technology, which is, for me, that's what matters. But we're seeing a little bit of a shift these days, but we're not there yet. But yeah, so the three things that I want to really touch up on is the white paper and the team and the community. So the white paper, for those of you who don't really know what it is, it's supposed to act as a business plan. It's supposed to explain basically what the project is trying to accomplish, the real life problem that they're trying to solve, why it even needs blockchain technology in the first place, and the roadmap and their milestones that they're trying to achieve. Because in 2017, we saw a lot of these companies who use the novelty of like, oh, we're just implementing blockchain, or like they would just involve the word blockchain, and they weren't really solving a real world problem. Their white paper was, or they didn't even have a white paper, and that was already a red flag for me. But it explained a lot of details to how it's going to set up that company to succeed in the future. So that's a big one. Another one that I pay attention to are team members. How much experience do team members actually have? And again, in 2017, we saw a lot of people who had ghost team members. Nobody knew who had what experience. And I don't know if you guys recall this one ICO that actually raised quite a bit of money, who on their team page ended up putting Ryan Gosling as their designer. And it was a topic that was actually chatted about quite a bit in Reddit. But people were still investing and pouring their money into that scam. It was a scam. And people found out later that it was a scam. Yeah, Ryan Gosling, that didn't make sense to me. So just examples like that. The third big one is the community. And why I talk about the community and not the other aspects is I feel in the crypto markets, the community is very different from traditional stock trading. Traditional stock trading, you have a lot of brokerages or investors who have a lot of capital who are able to invest, and media who are able to basically like dictate where the company goes. comparing to in crypto, actually the community holds a lot of that power. And the community actually champions a lot of where the company goes, along with having an amazing product. So when I join a community, I look into seeing if there have been individuals who have actually been involved in the community for some time, who provide due diligence to new members, who ask questions and who take the time to do that because they really believe in the mission and vision and the product of that company. Those are great signs. And if it's a company's community that I've joined that it's just talking about like shilling and pump and dumping, like for me, that's already a red flag. And we see a lot of those people, but I'm just saying the community overall. So yeah, so that's why I touch up on those like three big things and why the community is very important in the crypto markets. So then after you do your due diligence and then you become more familiar with pointing out red flags, then it's the big question that I've had in like, what is a wallet, or how can I even store my crypto / digital assets? And there's been a conversation about, should I store it on an exchange? What is the difference between cold wallets and hot wallets? But before going into the differences of those two, I want to touch on exchanges, which I consider like a hot wallet, because there are some sophisticated investors or investors that are very new to the space where they're not really up to date with the most what is it called, like the security measures in terms of where to keep their digital assets. So they decide to keep it on an exchange. But I highly recommend not to store long-term or large amounts on an exchange because they still are susceptible to hacks. We still hear about exchanges being hacked into. So it's not 100% secure. So the motto that I like to live off of is like, not your keys, not your crypto. But that's where I'll dive into the cold wallets versus the hot wallets. So this is just like a little breakdown of some of the wallets that people have mentioned, and I'll describe and go into detail on the difference between them and why I recommend certain ones. So with hot wallets, you can kind of see at the bottom that there's the software wallet and a web wallet. So I consider those hot wallets. They're easier to use. They're defined as being connected or anything that is connected to the internet. And they're anything like web-based wallets, mobile wallets, and desktop wallets, but they're least secure, but easier to use. So then again, an individual investor might go with those options, especially if they're not up to date with the latest security measures. With cold wallets or hardware wallets, those are things that are not connected to the internet. And you might have heard of some like cold wallets or cold storage wallets. They look like medium-sized USB sticks. So in order for somebody to actually hack into those, they would require your physical cold wallet and the pins and passwords that are needed in order to access that. But if you decide to go that route where it's you find that's the most secure and you feel more comfortable, just understand that you are accountable and responsible for your own digital assets. And if anything happens to them, it's basically on you. So when you decide to either go with a cold wallet or like a paper wallet where you write your private keys and stuff down, I always recommend to make backups. And the reason is I had a really good friend who he was first introduced to Ethereum. He wanted to basically play around, buy a bit of Ethereum and store it onto his first MyEther wallet, but he wanted to put it on a USB. He had lost it. Luckily, he had never transferred any assets on there, but it's basically done. Like you can't ever recover the digital assets on that cold wallet, like once you lose it. So that's just the dangers of it and why it's a little bit harder and people prefer to entrust that to hot wallets. Another thing that I actually wanted to go over is and especially with the story is, if you decide to, let's say if you have like different passwords and you're trying to manage where to store them and keep them, please do not put them on an Excel sheet on your desktop because it is still prone to being hacked. I have actually my partner's brother who he basically invested at a really good time. He was part of like the whole boom and made millions of dollars. But what he had done is he had decided to place all of his passwords from exchanges from his 2FA. 2FA is just another level of security that you add in order to verify that it's you. All his 2FA passwords, the Google Authenticator passwords on an Excel sheet on his desktop. And it had gotten hacked. He basically welcomed hackers to take everything from him. And he had lost a lot of money. So it was just a huge panic. And I had to describe to him, why that was unsafe and unsecure, and had him change like his emails. He had to contact the exchanges. It was like this huge headache. But if somebody would have told him to keep that offline and just to write it, it would have prevented a lot of that. So, I mean, up to date, he hasn't been able to, and will never be able to recover what was taken from him. So just a big thing. And don't store it on Google Drive. You don't want to store any of your passwords and stuff online. And again, there's a big danger to that. And then kind of a little stat that I found from January is the lost and stranded wallets, and why I talk about backing your stuff up is that just for the amount of Bitcoin, 20% of that amount that has is basically lost. And that's worth $140 billion worth that is just stranded and lost to people that haven't backed up their information in order to access their digital assets. That's a big amount. So yeah, always do backups and write things down if you're unsure. Yeah, that's one of the things about the cold storage wallets. All right. So after you kind of like have done your due diligence and you've looked into what type of wallets that you want to keep your digital assets in, this is where I find it's a very good opportunity to learn about different projects and diversify your portfolio. I always say don't put your eggs all in one basket. We've all heard that saying before, but it gives you a great opportunity to basically break down your initial investment into different portfolios. And this is especially if you've decided to do short-term and a combination of like long-term investments. If you're somebody who just wants to invest in just Bitcoin and Ethereum and kind of see how that goes, and you want to put like all your initial into that because it's just a long-term and that's your goal, okay, that's totally fine. But this is more so towards people who want to learn more about different projects and want to basically invest and split that initial investment into different areas. So I always say dedicate a certain percentage of your initial into those different portfolios. And again, this will ensure that you don't go over what you decided to initially put in. Like you don't want to go diving into your savings and then deciding that, okay, I actually would like to put more money in. Like stick to your goal and ensure that you're still in a position where you're able to pay your bills and you're not, compiling debt, because again, that still happens. All right. And I love talking about this because it's something that we see so much in the space happening. FOMO and FUD. So for those of you who don't know, FOMO stands for fear of missing out, and FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And the reason why I decided to present doing your due diligence first is because once you do your due diligence, you are confident in what the project has to offer, and you know it's going to take longer term or short term kind of journey, then you won't be swayed by what's going on and all the noise happening in the market. So I always tell people, be careful and beware of the noise. Again, don't be emotional and be patient. I feel like people always want kind of, this reward, but no risk. And it takes, again, a discipline. And we've all been there. We've all been emotional. I mean, I've been an emotional trader. That's, how I began, and I learned my lessons. I've made, I've lost. And that's why I pass on that knowledge to my friends and family and other communities, especially when I speak at panels. And for others who are, looking to genuinely get in and they don't know how to get started. So just be very careful about what media puts out there, what communities are saying. Really stick to your own gut feeling and apply that research, do your own due diligence. And again, like what media puts out there, it hasn't really been focused on, the technology. And I'm talking about like major media news outlets, not the news outlets that we follow that has to do with crypto, but just what overall people are understanding of like what it actually is. Because when I ask people about blockchain, they're like, I don't know. But when I mention Bitcoin, they're like, oh yeah, like making money. And I'm like, no. So a big thing. Okay. And then we'll go into scams. And I love talking about this topic because it helps me prepare people to what to expect. And there's actually quite a few scams. And I always tell people, I always go by this number one rule. The number one rule in life is nothing is free. And that's why I love tying these memes to it, because they're things that actually have happened. And I'm gonna just touch up on a few scams, not all of them, but we've heard scams of cloned websites or projects, chain letters, fake ICOs or fake projects, cloud mining scams, DeFi rug pulls, links that either come from emails or texts, or social media links, and then malware. So I always tell people, don't click on things that you don't know who it's from. And it's interesting because when I first got into the space, or started investing more into different ICOs, I remember joining the Slack channel to learn more about the project and to see if I could get in touch with the actual founders. And I remember this random profile had messaged me telling me that, oh, like if you don't click on this link, my Ether wallet, or we're going through an update, like if you don't click on it, then you're going to lose all your crypto. And of course, people thinking that there's like updates like that would freak out and click on the link and then get all their things stolen, but it's just an example. And yeah, I still actually get quite a few scams that come my way. But one of the main ones that I wanted to touch upon is hardware theft wallets. And it's one that's actually pretty common. And these are basically like the cold wallets. So Kraken had put up basically this post just to warn people that there were people trying to scam and target people with hardware wallets. And then I had found another one, which you can see here. It looks like a little lottery scratch ticket, which again screams scam to me. But what people were doing is they would try to play as companies that were providing legit hardware wallets when they weren't. So when they went through the whole setup process and thinking that they had like a proper recovery sheet and put all their digital assets, like boom, all of their digital assets were stolen in just like a matter of seconds. So a big rule and a big don't that I always tell people is, if you're looking for a cold storage wallet or a hardware wallet, don't go to Marketplace, don't go to Amazon, don't go on Facebook or Craigslist and try to find secondhand ones, because you never know where they came from. And you're basically setting yourself up to get your assets stolen. So that's a big, big, big one. Only buy them from reputable people. And I can give you some links to those ones. We can chat about that after. You can reach out to me and I can send you some. Yeah, just a big one, and just things to be mindful of. Another one is the phishing emails and texts. So it's interesting because the government of Canada had actually put out this warning because it was happening quite a bit. There was a large amount of people complaining about just emails, texts, social media, like people trying to scam them. So they put out a message. And the reason why I wanted to bring up this email is because I've gotten this email sent to me so many times, and it's mostly targeted towards females. And in the email, it describes basically saying, I'm a person that has access to a bunch of like inappropriate nude videos, like nude photos or whatever, even though you might have never like had any of those, and saying that, like if you don't transfer like a certain amount of Bitcoin to like this address, we're going to leak it to like all your colleagues and all your connections, and we're going to shame you and show it to the world. And it has some like broken down English and stuff too. But it's sad because I've actually had a lot of female friends who are like, Jackie, is this legit? Like, this is scaring me. And I tell them, no, it's a scam. But it's interesting how some scammers are kind of like targeting specific audiences. And so, yeah, I mean, I still get these emails and I'm like, whatever, but it happens. It scares a lot of people because they tie it to emotion, and people end up transferring money to them. All right. And of course, the social media ones, a lot of the ones that we saw in 2017, where developers call it God mode, where hackers basically take over, like hack into a person of influence or a social media account. And they mostly target people very well known in the industry. I gave Elon Musk as an example because of all the hype that's been going on with his tweets. But yeah, people either create social media profiles that are very similar, or URLs that are like very similar to people of high influence, and convince others that, oh, we're actually doing a giveaway. Like if you send like a certain amount of Ethereum, we're going to give you twice as much. And of course, in my head, I'm like, why would anybody do that? Nothing is free. But again, there's a lot of people who do send money because they want to be part of those giveaways. Like, who wouldn't want 2 Bitcoin from just reading that? But no, it's a scam. So I would just be very, very, very aware. And we also, yeah, we've seen a lot of that happening with social media, especially with Twitter, the Twitter accounts. And there's this one situation, I think it was like the president's social media account, I think it was Obama's, that had gotten hacked, and other government officials too. And about like $121,000 were stolen because of people tweeting as them to send money. And then we get into another scam with fake projects. And the reason I wanted to give an example of these guys is, one, it's in the DeFi space, which is a big buzzword besides like NFTs and stuff now. But yeah, you'll see a lot of projects that throw fake ICOs or have amazing marketing and design skills to make it look like a legit project. And then investors, are convinced to put their life savings into a project, and like after a matter of days after they do the funding, they're like gone, magically gone. So this is an example of a project that after 2 days it had vanished into thin air and nobody was able to recover the money. So that happens quite a bit. So in terms of fake projects, I also warn people just to pay attention to URLs and domains, because people will try to create ones that are similar, and then people will, connect their wallet to something that they think is a legit project, and then getting their funds stolen. Another one that I recommend is co-founders and team members. They will never direct message you for personal funds. So you'll see some co-founders or team members putting next to their name, basically saying, we will never ask you for or DM you for personal funds. And I actually had this happen to me the other day. I've been chatting or we're quite in touch with one of the co-founders from Chain Guardians, Robbie. And so I had received a message that replicated his picture, like his bio and everything. And me thinking it was him, but it was saying like, it was a message that was saying like, hey, how are you? And I basically responded like, yeah, totally fine. Like, is everything okay? And then that person was trying to get me to transfer money and saying, well, like, I need a certain amount of crypto to be able to provide it to the certain project. Can you like, please send me the crypto? And I'm like, okay, this is not Robbie. So just an example to be mindful of. And yeah, they target everybody. And another little fun fact with scams. So aside from the 140 billion worth of digital assets that are lost in space, it was interesting to me that I read this one article by this gentleman who had put out back in November that 7.6 billion worth of cryptocurrencies have been stolen that have fallen into buckets of hacks and scams. So that's actually quite a bit. If you add that with the amount of people who have lost access to their wallets too, that's a lot of money. So yeah, this is what I mean with the stats. The numbers speak for themselves. Of these are a lot of things that still happen. And this is where I want to close it off to talking about transparency and data, and chatting a little bit about Covalent and why it's so important. So at Covalent, we champion transparency and communication, especially when it comes to data. And for those who are looking to tie this back onto like, well, why does this matter, Jackie? Like, how can we actually tie this into crypto trading? Is with our unified API, that has indexed the entire blockchain. This is actually a very good measurable tool that people can use in order to look at data and compare it, or like pull data and compare it to what other companies are putting there. So we wanted to take the Tether USDT issuance as a use case. And for those of you who probably have heard, like back in January, I read this article from this gentleman. There was like a huge, or not gentleman because they're anonymous, but there was this huge controversy of Tether just being part of manipulating Bitcoin prices, comparing to what they were showing on their transparency dashboard. So we did a use case where using our API that doesn't require you to be a developer. It's basically like a no-code solution that we provide to everybody because we believe data should be accessible by everybody. We decided to basically like pull their information where we could see where everything was like minted and the amount of time that it was put out to, and then comparing those numbers that were live, because our refresh rate is pretty quick, comparing to like what Tether has put out there in their transparency dashboard. So this is a great tool if you want to look into different projects and wanting to validate like if it's legit legit, if their numbers are actually matching what they say. So we can pull all of that data out ourselves. So I highly recommend you guys to take a look at our docs page on our website, especially if you want to become familiar with this tool. And I do want to talk a little bit about basically like for those who have like questions about the Data Alchemist cookbook and how this ties into the this whole use case is we have opened up our Alchemist Ambassador program where we just saw a big need or people wanting to get involved in the community and being like, this is a huge issue in this space, the transparency with data. You guys have created a solution that allows people or anybody to access it without needing to be a developer. Like, how can we be part of Covalent's mission? How can we share that so people know about these tools, which a lot of our partners and well-respected companies or protocols in the industry have been using too. So we decided to come up with this program where it's not only catered towards those needs, but we also provide growth and development. And a lot of these Alchemist OGs who we've recruited, they've already been building solutions with our API, and they're actual real life use cases that you can use that a lot of people have been finding really, really helpful. And they've been able to get guidance and mentorship in being able to help them with growth and development in different parts of their career, whether it's personally and professionally. So I do want to I will provide the link to our registration form because we are going to be recruiting many more into our program. And we haven't announced it yet, but I want to open it up to the Crypto Chicks community for you guys to kind of like take a look and see what the alchemists are building and what they're learning. And we're going to showcase a lot of that starting next week. But yeah, they've been using a lot of the Proof of Education series, the Data Alchemist cookbook that I already showed, along with tying it back to, Tether USDT as being like one of the use cases. They find that very, very helpful in terms of being able to pull data in other ways or forms. But yeah, that's basically my chat. And I wanted to thank you and open it up if we have time to any questions that anybody had. If there isn't time, you're more than welcome to reach out to me or to the team. And yeah, I encourage you to look at our website and I'll provide the type form shortly.
All right. Thank you, Jacqueline. This is an awesome presentation. So we already have questions in the chat, and we also have in the live stream as well about the comments. So the Quora users should listen to this. So that's something that probably people are very much liking your presentation. So thank you for that. And let's look at our chat for all the questions that we have here. So the first one that came from Maria, how does Jacqueline account the development of the project in your decision? So how do you account the development of the project? So I guess this is, yes. Okay, please go ahead.
Is this in terms, Maria, I have a quick question. Is this in terms of the project like Covalent itself, or is this when I take into consideration other projects and like how they're developing before I even invest in them?
Yeah, Maria, you're welcome to type in the chat or you can unmute yourself. So other projects. So she said other projects.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to answer that question, but before I forget, I'm just going to throw in the little link to the type form. For those who want to register. Okay, that's available there. But yeah, for other projects, how I really account their development, I look at different things. So another part that I didn't go through, which a lot of projects, they mention it in their white paper, is it's basically the roadmap. And I pay a lot of attention to the kind of goals that they have set up, depending on like the different quarters, and then seeing if they've actually executed it, and have seen basically paid attention to any partners that are very well respected in the space or have basically a good reputation, or seeing the news releases that they put out too. And I always reach out to either like founders to see if they take the time to answer questions or provide information like that. So yeah, it's very dependent on like what they showcase the community, what the roadmap is, what they've executed, along with milestones that they've actually hit. So you can find a lot of red flags when a company promises something and it doesn't really align with the execution. So you'll be able to see those patterns that are actually put into play. I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. And Christine is asking, what type of wallet do you prefer to use yourself?
I use a cold storage wallet personally. I remember when I first created my Ether wallet or the Mu, and it was intimidating. I was like, what the heck? This private key is so long. But I remember it's because my colleagues had encouraged me and walked me through that it made me feel more comfortable. But personally, me, because I do hold like large accounts, I keep it on a cold storage wallet. But I also do a lot of day-to-day trading. So I do keep certain amounts on an exchange because I mean I have to do day-to-day trades. But when it comes to large amounts, then I'll shift it off into a cold wallet where only I have access to it.
Awesome. Another question, Anderson is asking, when you get a scam message that they provide you the blockchain address to which the funds should go, are there any enforcement agencies where we can report this address? I'm not sure this is is it in, yeah, if you know the answer to this question.
I'm not sure. I mean, like I've tried even with emails, well, I'll like report it too. And if it's any companies where like people are playing off of other companies, then I will let the founders or companies know, like I'll send them an email and saying like, hey, this person's actually trying to scam like your community, just be aware of it. And then they'll send a message to the community. In terms of kind of like different regions or like government doing anything, I mean, you can send them a message. What can they do? Not really sure, but I mean, those are the most steps that I can take as a person to just inform other people or the communities or the founders. I mean, I feel like the founders or team members can play a big part in doing that. And you see a lot of team members taking action. Like they'll constantly warn the communities to be careful.
Yeah, so from my experience, maybe I share as well, because I worked for police for 15 years, and it's for police, it's difficult to react on every message like this unless something already happened. So this is it's a very gray area. So they will need probably someone already got hurt before they open up the police report just to be scammed. And that, because if police start reacting to all these messages like that, so there's not enough manpower for them. For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably just tell you, just ignore this message, just delete, just block this recipient. So this is something like that. So they will not have manpower to take an action on it, unfortunately.
Yeah, and they're very hard to track too. I mean, that's a part of the technology is kind of like remaining anonymous. So there's only so much that they can do, and a lot that even like media or different officials, they're still trying to understand the capabilities and how it actually works. So yeah, we're quite a few years from that, I find.
Exactly. And Vishal is asking, are there any examples you may have of use cases? And that's probably the use cases that you invest into.
Could you be more specific
Yeah,
into what
Vishal, maybe type in the chat what did you mean about the use cases, which exactly what use cases you mean? Is it for investments? Is it
sorry, actually, I had to excuse myself for a brief moment, and when I came back, you were mentioning use cases of the Covalent API.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't catch on to that part. If you have any other use cases that you can give
perfect.
examples.
I can actually tie that back to Harish. He's the guru of it. If you're comfortable chatting, he can give you tons of use cases because he runs a lot of our campaigns and actually created a proof of education series that we give to our Alchemist to use.
Awesome. So yes, Harish is here. Harish.
Hey, Mr. Harish.
Awesome. Hey, Vishal, great question. And I'm going to provide you with a link to our doc site where we actually walk through examples in a variety of different use cases. But you can think of everything from taxation, looking at and creating dashboards for analyzing transfers from specific wallets, to doing deep dives on NFTs. We've got our API pulling in data for all those interesting use cases. And I'll direct you to our docs where we actually have code templates, videos, and case studies that go through each of these interesting case studies.
Awesome.
All right, thank you so much. I actually posted in the Telegram chat a few days ago that I'm working on a project regarding Covalent. It's for a blockchain miner I'm doing at my university here in the Netherlands. So I think that would definitely help me out a lot. Thank you.
No worries. Let me actually give you our docs page. Yeah, I'll include it in the chat right now for our doc
please
page.
include in the chat. Thank you so much. And we move into next question. What from Tanya? What is the question? What do you look for in founders teams when considering investing? And this might not be available for the answer here, but how might you mitigate capital gains if you do plan on converting back to fiat?
Okay, the second question, I feel like we can connect and chat a little bit more about that because I find there's more information I can provide. But in terms of what I look for in teams and founders is one, I look at what type of how long have they actually been in the space, because you find some members that they create companies, or they have developers but have no experience in Solidity, they have no experience or have backgrounds and even attending events or building any solutions that actually require the technology. It's people who are very new to the space. They have experience in traditional parts. Let's give real estate as an example. It would be a realtor who's trying to implement the technology into their solution, and I don't know, implementing smart contracts and listing properties and mitigating kind of the third party or the brokerage firm from being able to transact and have that listing or that transaction complete. It's just, do they have experience in the space? Do they understand how components of the smart contracts and Ethereum actually works to be able to make that happen? How have they implemented security measures into their platform? Because that's a huge thing. How transparent are they providing, information to the community? There's so many different components when it comes to team members. So with Covalent, I can give perfect examples. I mean, we have Ganesh, who's been involved in the space for 5 years. He surrounded himself with people in the space who have been in the space for 10 plus years that are more knowledgeable, that can actually provide a lot of guidance, who have built products, who either have experience in building the APIs, a lot of experience in analyzing data, in Solidity, in building smart contracts. It's those type of track records that you look at. And then I normally look at a lot of the team members kind of LinkedIn to see what projects that they've worked on. So if you take a look at our teams, we provide all of that information. You can see the projects that we've been part of. We speak at a lot of different events that are different themed events too. If you look at our team based on the tech side, they all have just tons and tons of experience on projects that they've built. Even Harish, who's he's in charge, he's the head of developer relations, and the way that he runs campaigns and the experience that he brings and is able to answer questions and can own the product and explain it is such a big thing. So you'll see some team members, sometimes they're unsure, they don't know, or they don't even know what the mission and vision or what they're working towards. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, just different components. It depends. It's a lot of different things.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So next questions is where do you find the company's white papers? And I think I can answer that on the website. That's probably where. Yeah. So that's where you look, the first thing. And another question, do you have any recommendation for good resources to find vetted wallets and exchanges?
I have a few. I mean, it depends. I mean, you can find a lot of them from reading just a lot of well-respected, I guess, what do you call it? Media outlets that are focused on blockchain, not your normal Yahoo, or which ones that recommend actually good exchanges. I mean, we've heard about the reputable ones KuCoin, Binance. There's Coinbase too, where you can do just basic type of trading. In terms of wallets, why don't we connect over email? Well, I can actually send you a list. So I'll just write my email down on here, and then I'll just send you a list of ones that I recommend and to look into. And then, yeah, you can ask anybody also for advice who actually does the trading, or any of the team members, and they'll give you good recommendations.
The one wallet that we recommend, this is Portis. If you go to portis.io, so this is something that we use as well. So this is a software wallet. very secure as well, but you need to take care of your own security. So for example, if you forget your password, this is a non-custodial wallet, right? If you get your password, that's it. So they have all the security measures as well, two-factor authentication and so on. So if you can go look at Portis.io, this is something that we use. I'm very happy about. I think we have all the questions and we have all the time that we had today. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Thank you so much, Rish, and thank you to Covalent. If you have guys any questions, you can always ask us at stayintouch@cryptochicks.ca. And I would like to thank you, everyone. And I know right now we're going to go away from this and we're going to come back for only CryptoChicks Hatchery members. So if the CryptoChicks Hatchery members, please come back to the link that we provided in the chat, and we're going to be chatting more about investments, investors, and VCs in the space today. But I would like to thank our general audience and thank Jacqueline again and Harish for this excellent presentation. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, everyone.
Yes.
And if there's anything that you thought that I missed, or if you want to tag our handle or my handle on Twitter and mention things, like please feel free to. We're more than happy to share like thoughts and then spark conversations. We're all about that. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And the CryptoChicks Hatchery members, we will be waiting you at the link that we provided.